I haven't told anyone this. I'm actually getting my private pilot's license here in Colorado. I've been thinking about this for a very long time. When I was in the Air Force, when I was 18 years old in Singapore, I used to see those fighter jets fly every day, and I used to think about the day where I would be able to learn to fly an airplane. Now, there was always a lot of things to consider when deciding whether or not to start the journey of getting my private pilot's license. The biggest thing for me was location. I've lived in both Singapore and the US, and Singapore isn't a place that's very pilot friendly. They will try to teach you the ground school aspect of things in Singapore, and then they would generally send you overseas to either the US or Australia so you can fly every day and try to get your pilot's license as quickly as possible. I did consider that for a very long time, and 2 years ago I decided to do exactly that. I signed up for ground school in Singapore, and I did about 8 hours of flight simulator sessions where I actually keyed in the airport code that's just behind me over there. I did find those flight simulator sessions to be really helpful. And when I got in the aircraft for the first time here in Colorado, I felt like I knew the cockpit of the aircraft and generally how to use the flight controls. We did all the steps as we would do while flying a real airplane, and so it didn't feel like a completely new experience to me. But that being said, nothing beats flying a real airplane. And I'm currently about 10 hours into my flying journey. From what I understand, it takes about 60 to 80 hours on average for someone to get their private pilot's license. So if I fall anywhere in the 60 to 80 hours, I think I'm going to be pretty happy with myself. The other big consideration for me was the financials. I know that to get those 60 to 80 hours of flight time costs anywhere in the range of $20,000 to $30,000. I projected this out on an Excel sheet, and I calculated that if I was able to get my flying and get my pilot's license in 60 hours, that would cost me somewhere around 22,000 USD. Whereas if I took 80 hours to do it, then it would cost me something like 28,000 USD to get it. So I'm anticipating anywhere in the 60 to 80 hour range. And so I've put aside a budget of $30,000 to get my license. Now, there's two other things that I've had to consider before deciding when I was going to do this. And the other thing was the difficulty challenge. Like, how difficult was this going to be? I knew that the journey to getting a private pilot's license has a lot of studying involved, and from what I heard from my flight instructor, he said that for every hour of flying you actually end up doing 2 hours of study. There's so many books that you have to go through, and you have to know all these information in detail. Flying and aviation is like learning a completely new language which you need to become fluent in, because they will test you on this when you finally go for your check ride, and you need to know all this information. So you have to have the time to be able to study outside of taking flying lessons. Right now, I have set aside flying time 2 days a week. So I go from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 p.m. in the afternoon. That's about 4 hours twice a week that I'm doing this. Now, the last thing I considered in the past was the safety. I knew that I couldn't afford to fly myself, and so I would have to request support from my parents, and I knew that there was no way that they would entertain the idea of me flying. And to be honest, I didn't even bother to ask them. This was my personal goal. I didn't need to involve my parents or anyone involved in this decision, and so I decided to wait until I had the financial means to support myself to be able to go down this road. Now, I want to talk about my main motivations for flying. The biggest thing for me is I've always loved my freedom. I love driving, I love doing road trips, and I can't think of anything cooler or more fun than to be able to own my own airplane and to be able to fly that from one destination to another, perhaps on a morning flight, go grab brunch somewhere else in a different city that's, an hour flight away, and then fly back after. For me, it really comes down to the experience that I'm going to have in my life and the experience that I get to bring my friends and family on. And especially at this point in my life, I'm married, I have 2 daughters. It makes me so happy to know that one day I'll be able to get to fly my daughters around and create these very unique experiences for them that, if I didn't have a pilot's license, I wouldn't be able to have. Another big motivation for me for flying is I really wanted to learn a new skill. Now more than ever in my life, I enjoy learning. I've adopted an attitude of being a lifelong learner. And so as soon as I'm done learning one thing, I move on to another. I try to make sure I'm doing something that's either equally or more challenging, or just something that I've wanted to do forever that I feel passionate about or have some curiosity about. For me, it's also about doing something fun, doing something that's really cool, doing something that's unique, and ultimately being able to create some really unique experiences in my life. So let me talk about why now and why do it in Colorado? Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's not easy to get a private pilot's license in Singapore. It's significantly more expensive, and they will let you do your ground school there, and they will still send you overseas to do your flying. I knew that I was coming to the US to do my MBA, and so I had figured out in advance which airport I was going to do it at, which school I was going to do it at, and I planned all that in to know that I'll be able to allocate 6 months of flying time here in Colorado during my MBA program. And thankfully, everything worked out according to plan. I'm in the last 6 months of my MBA, and I'm taking significantly less courses, and I'll be graduating pretty soon. So I have a lot more time to be able to dedicate to flying lessons as well as studying when I'm not flying the plane. Another great thing about doing the flying lessons here is that I live 7 minutes from the closest airport to me. So Rocky Mountain Metro Airport is, as I mentioned earlier, it's just over there behind that hill. You've probably seen aircrafts flying by in this footage, probably just over there because they're heading down to the landing strip. It's a perfect location. It takes me 7 minutes to get there. I'm doing it at a school called McAir Aviation. They have so many instructors. There's a lot of aircraft activity in the sky here, so it increases the challenge of flying for new pilots, but I'm also getting a really good experience, and it's going to make me a better pilot in the end. The only challenging thing about flying here and trying to keep to that timeline is that flying is weather dependent, especially when you're first getting your private pilot's license. You don't have an instrument rating, so you're really at the mercy of the weather. And here in Colorado with the mountains and everything, it's generally can be a little bit windy, and now it's winter, and as you can see, I'm out here in a t-shirt, but next week it's going to be snowing again, so it really kind of changes day to day, and sometimes my lessons get canceled, and I just have to be flexible, where some weeks I'm only flying once and other weeks I get to fly twice. Now, to conclude this video, I just want to share that I'm hoping to pass my check ride, which is the final exam, essentially, that you have to go through to get a private pilot's license, where they test you on your knowledge as well as flying maneuvers and things like that. So for me to get that, I'm hoping that I will pass the check ride within 5 to 6 months from now. That being said, I plan to post a video once a month to share an update on how I'm doing. And I'm going to share today's update, which is I've just clocked 10 hours of flying with my flight instructor here at McAir. And so far, it's been an awesome journey. I've been loving the challenge, learning a new skill, flying. I'm having a great experience overall. We've been learning some maneuvers. I think I've learned probably 5 to 6 maneuvers already just in my first 10 hours. And I've been studying outside of the plane. So when I'm at home, I close my eyes, I sit on my chair, and I do chair flying, which has really helped me progress quickly. Thanks for watching. And if you guys want to join me on this pilot's journey, then please subscribe, and you will be able to see my monthly updates. See you guys in the next video.